It is recorded that by about 1512 AD, the techniques of tin glazing had reached the shores of the Netherlands by itinerant potters from Italy. The main and most well-known Dutch pottery is the one at Delft, but others contributed to the production of these wares. They are Haarlem, Amsterdam, Gouda, Rotterdam, Dordrecht, Middelburg and Antwerp. This dish is a Krak Chinese Wanli period porcelain dish from around 1650 AD. It is typical of the type of Chinese porcelain coming into Europe at the time, which was greatly copied by tin glazed potters who were trying to emulate the wonderful decorations. The word krak refers to the sailing vessels which carried huge amounts of the wares to Europe. This 17th century still life painting depicts a bowl of fruit, the bowl clearly being a 17th century Wanli Chinese porcelain bowl. Here we have a very early piece of Delft ware. It is moulded and many would have come from the same mould. The cobalt blue decoration is influenced by Chinese designs and is exceptionally well executed in a very clear manner. Here is the underside of that previous dish. Somewhat later, perhaps mid-18th century, is this reticulated basket with a Chinese theme in the centre. Reticulation refers to the cutting of the holes in the sides of the dish using a fine blade. Once again, a superb strawberry strainer on a stand has holes pierced in the bottom. The decorative floral border enhances the overall appeal of this ensemble. This is a Delft wall plaque of the mid-18th century. You can detect the mix of decorative styles, with the central theme once again being Chinese-inspired. This kind of decoration was very popular in the tin glaze factories. We refer to it as a polychrome decoration. One can see in this case that there are only three pigments used: cobalt, iron and copper. Decoration was always done on the raw or partially fired tin glaze, and when the glaze matured, the colours melted into the glaze and resulted in a very fine finish. On the left is another lovely oval polychrome dish, and on the right is an unusual sculpture of Bacchus in blue on white. This is a Delft tea caddy, and it has a metal lid with an egg called finial, probably pewter, and its cobalt decoration depicts a bare-breasted lady. The scene was known as erotical. The shape of this delightful pair of lidded urns is Chinese-inspired, as is the decoration, which is also called chinoiserie. The polychrome colours have the addition of antimony to give the yellow touches. This is a very typical and classically decorated wet drug jar from the Antwerp factory. The flowing brush strokes of the cobalt blue decoration enhance this rich pattern. This early plate from Haarlem is beautifully decorated in green, orange and blue. An armorial motif adorns the centre. The Dutch Delft factories produced a huge amount of tiles. This is part of an attractive panel of Delft tiles in blue and white with various landscapes executed in a delightful manner. Borders of the tiles varied quite considerably in design. Tiles were also decorated in numerous polychrome designs. These haphazardly placed tiles exhibit a busy collection of pomegranates and grapes with elaborate trident-style motifs in the corners. We see here a number of different and popular animal motifs decorating these tiles. The kitchen of the Amalienborg Palace in Copenhagen was lined with Delft tiles. They were used extensively for interior decoration in many countries. The numerous examples can still be seen in Amsterdam and other places in the Netherlands. In some of the large variety of marks you may expect to find on the undersides of Dutch Delft wares would have been painted in cobalt blue. Our journey now takes us across the Channel to the British Isles. Many tin-glazed potteries were established here from the late 17th century. The main areas of production were in London, Lambeth, Southwark, Vauxhall, Bermondsey and Aldgate, and in Bristol, Brislington, Liverpool and Wincanton, and also in Glasgow and Dublin. Tin-glazed earthenware products in the British Isles were known as English Delftwares. A large variety of wares were produced, such as mugs, drug jars, dishes, wine bottles, posset pots, salt pots, candlesticks, fuddling cups, puzzle jugs, bleeding bowls, oranges and flour bricks. In the 16th and 17th centuries, English Delftware potters were called gallipot makers, and their wares were known as gallipots or gallyware. The name may relate to the importation of Maiolica that reached Europe on board galleys, or it is more likely that the use of the term in England came from Flanders, where tin-glazed earthenware makers were known as galleaspotbakers. We first begin by looking at the blue dash charges, so called because of the border of cobalt blue charged brushstrokes. Various themes decorated the centre of these large charges, which sometimes measured up to 45 centimetres or more. They were wheel thrown. This one has an equestrian theme, and the background was done by a technique called sponging, the colour dabbed on by a natural sponge. Two more equestrian charges. These London charges show King William III on his horse. Floral motifs were often applied to the charger. This one shows large oak leaves painted in copper oxide, which gives the green colour. The further embellishments are in cobalt and antimony, and this one in antimony, chrome and cobalt has a border which shows a variation of the blue dash. A very popular theme for the blue dash charger was Adam and Eve. Many were primitively painted to depict Adam and Eve in various states of undress, succumbing to the temptations of the apple and the serpent. Following are some more examples of these delightful Adam and Eve blue dash chargers. A puzzle jug is a puzzle in the form of a jug, popular in the 18th and 19th century. They were popular in homes and taverns. The inscription often challenged the drinker to consume the contents without spilling them. The solution of the puzzle is that the jug has a hidden tube, one end of which is the spout. To make the puzzle more interesting, it was common to provide a number of extra holes along the tube, which had to be closed off before the contents could be sucked from a spout at the end of the tube. The fuddling cup, or confusing cup, was another novelty, difficult to drink from object, popular with the English Delft potters. This one comes from Vauxhall in London about 1720. Posset pots. Well, a posset was originally a popular British hot drink made of milk curdled with wine or ale, often spiced. It was often used as a remedy. In the 17th century, the drink evolved into a cream, sugar and citrus-based confection. A caudle cup of 1674 from a London pottery depicts a royal motif. A caudle is a thickened and sweetened hot drink. Like a posset, it was usually alcoholic. It was popular in the Middle Ages for its so-called medicinal properties. Here is an example of wares decorated with sponged borders of manganese dioxide. Tissue paper was laid on the plate to create the reserves, which were then decorated with various designs, rural themes and chinoiserie. Fish motifs were common on the borders. Here is a technique shown of decoration on tin glaze known as bianco sopra bianco. The tin glaze in this example is lightly blued with cobalt, and the decoration is applied by using white tin glaze and painting it over the ground glaze. A tranquil country scene adorns the centre of this lovely plate. This is an example from Bristol in about 1680. The ground glaze has also been blued to a different degree. The artist has chosen a floral spray for this plate. This method of decoration had its beginnings in Italy, hence the name Bianco sopra bianco, or white on a background. Here are two pharmacy jars of different forms decorated in cobalt blue. It was customary to write the name of the drug on the jar, surrounded by embellishments of all different kinds. Here we have a delightful plate from London. It has a very similar polychrome decoration to the Dutch Delft example shown earlier. Cobalt, iron and copper are the metallic oxides needed. These very pleasant pair of bowls were painted with manganese oxide, which resulted in this lovely purple colour on the tin glaze. Various degrees of strength of colour in the decoration was achieved by adding some raw tin oxide to the mixture. 3 claret jugs or wine jugs are exhibited here and similarly decorated with cobalt, with text surrounded by scrolls and ornaments. The English Delft potteries produced many of these flower bricks, which were mainly used for displaying hyacinth and tulip bulbs. 3 floral swags ornament the border of this octagonal Dublin plate, and the centre also reflects some Chinese influence with flowers and the bamboo. And lastly, we see here a lovely plate from Glasgow about 1760, depicting Bonnie Prince Charlie in its centre. The decoration incorporates some polychrome colours, and a line of iron oxide has been trailed around the rim. From the middle of the 17th century, the technique of tin glazing had also spread to the rest of the continent of Europe, with centres at Hamburg, Berlin, Frankfurt, Nuremberg, Hungary, and other countries as well. These 2 tankards, one from Berlin and one from Frankfurt, are lidded with pewter, which was a customary way of sealing the tops of drinking vessels. The lidded jug on the right has a black decoration. Black was achieved by mixing equal quantities of cobalt, iron and manganese together. This lovely 18th century mug from Nuremberg has a twist handle. The panel opposite the handle shows a rural scene, and to the rear is a multitude of floral designs. The handle is blue dashed. And we come to the end of our tin glaze journey with this lidded mug or jug from Hungary. No cobalt seems to have been used in its decoration, just antimony, copper and manganese. In conclusion, may I say that the huge production of tin-glazed earthenwares from the 9th to the 19th centuries showed without doubt the versatility of the potters who made the wares, the technicians who separately in many cases fired and glazed the wares, and the wonderful decorators. Their skill, adaptability and improvisation has largely been unrecognised. It is truly remarkable that such exquisite pottery could have been produced such a long time ago when technology was so primitive. Thank you for watching.